So what we're going to do this afternoon, as I said, we're going to focus on project-based learning, and that's going to set up for what we're going to do for our project, which is what is really the crux of the training. I haven't been here 24 hours. So all of the context where y'all just went like this and was copyright, my man stood up and was like, are you sure? And this, that, the other. But too often in our classrooms, we'll stifle that energy. We'll stifle that energy because it's like, no, one at a time and this, that, and the other, as opposed to like, nah, tell me more. So I was saying I wanted to model being vulnerable, presenting something where I know that I'm not the expert of. And so when we're engaging with our young people and we're venturing into these projects, there's going to be moments that we go from being the teacher to at best just being the facilitator, because the students will then become the teacher, because not only they may know it, but they're living the experiences that are creating the messages that they're conveying. You know, it's one thing for me to listen to the news and hear about what's going on versus I don't need to turn on the news because it happened up the street and it happened right there and I'm feeling that way. So this was just a great model exercise. So you just did that.
And additionally, we could discuss whether it actually is soca. I know Laurie would, yeah. Is it? Do we agree? Do we think it's soca or is it Afrobeat, quintessentially?
It is Afrobeat, but we use the percussive elements of it in soca.
But fundamentally,
it's Afrobeats.
Afro.
Yeah, it's Afrobeats.
Yeah, because genre is determined by rhythm, right? And fundamentally, rhythm is Afrobeat.
Yeah.
But these things have infused into our festival to say soca.
Well, fundamentally, soca is a fusion genre already itself. So when we're looking at subgenres and the fusion, we look at the heart of soca is already fusion. So in the spirit of that, from creation, from inception to now, soca. If you're looking at it conceptually, from its origin, because it's an origin, the origin is fusion already. Well, that's another question.
So here's another teachable moment. The internet by itself is never first source information. It's dangerous. So, because we were just talking about how young people today, they're exposed to the world through what's on their phones. So, if without me meeting a room full of beautiful experts from Barbados, I don't know how to define that sound outside of the context of what it sounds like to me. But I know enough to know that, yes, experience worketh knowledge, but that is not the extent of what should be considered knowledge. Like you see, so a lot of times with our young people, they'll look online and take what's online as truth and question your expertise. It's like, well, it was on a playlist that said soca, crop over, so you're wrong. But and that creates a very dangerous space when we are valuing these sources that we don't know at all over those people who are walking and living and breathing amongst us. You got one more thing you want to say to take us out? You good? You sure? Yeah. All right.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Oh. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes.
No, you didn't see me.
Okay.
But piggybacking off of what just happened there, that is a very real example of what will happen in my classroom when they start to differentiate between genres. And as you said, the children, if they come and say, well, the same song is not a soca song. Mom, but that ain't true. That play for soca, blah, blah, blah. How do I deal with that in the classroom?
So it's as Randy was saying, it starts with the context, but also know that there's a term called working definitions. And so it really may be, and as we talked about before lunch, like cultural relevance. So we could go back and we could give kind of the origin of that particular style of sound. But as one of my brothers over here was saying, that if in its nature, soca represents a fusion, then at some point, do you really get to control the extent of the metamorphosis of that fusion? So I could say in the United States, there's a huge debate within the hip hop community because these genres have morphed and become other things that those who may identify as hip hop purists and the keepers of the culture will feel like what you are doing is not hip hop. You need to call it something else. But then it's like, okay, are you then becoming what your parents were to you when you were birthing something and your parent was like, turn off that noise, that's not even music. See, I done struck a chord now. They was like, that part. So we then sometimes will take our learned expertise and begin to squash the freedom of discovery that's just in it. So the context is important. So you want them to have an understanding. But part of it is they're going to take and do what it is that makes them move and groove, because truthfully, like right now, like 5 years ago, how many people were even saying the term Afro beats? But now you fast forward, you'd be hard pressed to find songs that don't have some drop of what would be that. I would even say the way that people are kind of this sing, rapping, quasi-moaning type thing, like, and dealing with all of the, probably there's some vocal coaches in the room. I really don't know what note they are hitting to just kind of sound like they're, like it's like moaning to a rhythm, and then the world is like, you are speaking for me because I was sad, and you was like, and then that becomes a hit, and then everybody's like, jump, 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 jump. I own that, so somebody take that. No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and also to the point that the lady asked the question, right? I don't know how it is in the United States as it pertains to when you take a music class or when it's a part of the curriculum. It's just a class you take and then you get the overarching diploma from high school or whatever the case would be. But in Barbados and the Caribbean, you know, when these students take these classes, we are literally preparing them for one, real life application. Can we take this skill and can we make money from this skill and be expressive with this? And also we're preparing them for examination, right? So you know, with the working definitions, there are good examples of something, and then there are some things where people are doing to push the genre forward. But sometimes when it comes to the creative or to the freedom of thought, you know, in trying to prepare students for an examination, that freedom can really be challenging to try to manage that, right? Because you're trying to get these minds, you're trying to get them to be creative and be creative thinkers and freedom of thought. But at the same time, the overarching examination council wants this type of answer, right? So I think it's a play in between the two, trying to balance the situation.
No, thank you for lifting that up. And as you were speaking, what came to my mind, and we're actually going to touch on this a little bit tomorrow, but heavily in jazz, you have improv. And there is a recognizable difference to the freedom of sound from somebody playing who does not know how to play and somebody who is just in that zone improving and jamming because they have mastered the standards enough that I'm going to put a little something on it and I'm going to do this and do that. So I would say, to your point, because if they have to pass the examination, and I'm assuming that the examination is based on certain standards that they have to know. So then what would happen is you would, if that young person wants to be creative and be expressive, then there's this term called reverse engineering. So if you create something that's all of these things, all right, so now how did you get to without understanding like bop, 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 bop? So then the reverse engineering process would be that young person being able to explain, I started with this standard and then I brought this sound in and I did that to it and I did that to it. The problem is that when we only teach to the standard, we then present the standard as if it's the top of the building as opposed to it being the foundation by which you build upon. Does that make sense? So that's the piece. Because we need the root, but they don't really taste that good on our plate. But we need the root. And so then it's like, hey, you have to have these standards because the mastering of these standards will allow you to play anywhere and play anything. And so then that transferable skill would be just like having that fundamental education and those basic cognitive skills. You would be able to feel confident in any situation, in any space. Because it's not about knowing everything, but do you know enough within yourself to believe that, hey, I'm going to learn from you, but I got value added and you're going to learn from me. So thank you for that. All right. So I just want to give some context. When it comes to project-based learning, I would say probably the organization that has set what I would view as the gold standard is an organization called Project-Based Learning Works, or PBL Works, and they are actually here working with principals and teachers. And so I just wanted to play a short video where they just give some overview of what project-based learning is, and then we're going to transition into the framework that we are going to use as a tool. All right?
Most of the planning and designing takes place before a project starts, but you can't always predict how it's going to go because students may take it in a direction you didn't expect. When planning a project, the Buck Institute's model for Gold Standard PBL has 7 essential project design elements, and those are good guidelines for teachers to follow.
So teachers often ask, where do good project ideas come from? And the answer is so many places. You might start with a unit that you've taught many times in the past in a very traditional way and revise it, remodel it into project-based learning, paying attention to those design elements that really take learning in a deeper direction.
When I'm designing these projects, I sort of think about what these real-world applications are. Is it authentic? Can I sustain the interest of students for a long period of time? Will kids develop a passion? What kind of questions will it inspire?
But to get your own ideas for projects, look at things like your community, your students' interests, things that are going on in their lives, their culture, their identity. It's also great to get feedback from colleagues on your project design because that improves the quality of the project, and it also models for students the kind of critique culture you want them to have.
Nothing builds engagement like a project that grows right out of a student's own passion or interest or question.
And I always think about the end in mind. Where is it that I want it to go? What do I want the format to look like? And are there milestones along the way where kids can have a lot of flexibility and a lot of choice?
It could be things from the news, from current events, pop culture. It can also be things that are happening in your community, real-world problems you want students to solve, or the kind of problems that adult professionals face in their lives.
Some teachers also wonder, do I have to constantly be designing new projects? You'll find that many project ideas are kind of evergreen. You can reuse them from one year to the next or from one class to the next. Others become actually part of a tradition of a school. These are projects that students kind of anticipate. By the time I'm in X grade, I get to do this awesome project that I've been hearing about for years.
Planning also involves collecting resources for a project. For example, you might need to arrange equipment or materials for students.
And just as important as the stuff, you want to think about the people who are going to be resources for the project. People who might enter your classroom as experts, content experts, or professionals in the disciplines that your students are now working in. If they're working as historians or scientists or photographers or whatever the case may be. Those sorts of folks are great to have available to answer students' questions, be role models, really show them what this discipline is like by those who are practicing it every day.
A 401k plan is a retirement plan that employers offer as a benefit.
But not too different from that concept drawing, right? We have the bedrooms up here.
So I learned when I was a teenager about movies.
One other resource you want to think about for your project is who are the people who are going to be the audience for students' work. So we think of project-based learning as having a public product. Public can mean lots of different things. It might mean a big hall full of very interested, engaged audience members, or it might be a small panel of people who are very connected to the problem that your students are wrestling with and have developed some solutions for.
We assume put $5,000 for each kid, and you save them $50 a month. All right, so about by the time he's 18, he have saved over $19,000.
Okay. And again, you want to remain flexible because students may well have some ideas of their own when it comes to who do they want to share their work with.
At the end of a project, teachers can ask students to reflect on how it went.
Now is your time. You're going to got 2 minutes to talk about what you've learned.
They think about what they learned, how they accomplished their tasks, any roadblocks they met, and how they overcame them. It's a great way to both improve the quality of the project for next time and to just sort of inform your growth as a project-based teacher.
So, in the video when they were referring to the standards for PBL, right up here, this is where it talks about the gold standard for teaching practices as well as for design. And Randy told me that he sent you all, so you all have access to the deck. So those are there. But some of the things, as they pointed out, ideally in its best form, project-based learning is something that is implemented along with the students. But in the beginning, it may be something that you would develop based on your knowledge and understanding of them. And then as they go through, they can begin to come up with and create their own. And then also knowing that there are levels to how you're going to evaluate it. Just as my brother was talking about the standards, that the standards can be met, but then oftentimes you may create rubrics or what are some of the other skills and behaviors that we want to measure as that project that's being implemented that may go above and beyond the standards. Any thoughts, questions, wonderings about PBL as it's presented there? Because if not, then I definitely want to dive into our spin, how we're going to go about doing it. And so in the spirit of fusion, and how do you take something from the foundation and then add to it and make it your own, that is what I ended up doing. So here is the 7 P's for project-based learning. I figured it was easier to remember and wanted to give it kind of a rhythm. And so you're going to start off with provoke. What is that issue? What is something that is meaningful enough to your students to begin to address? You know, and this is key because there may be issues or things that you feel are priority and are meaningful to you that for your students, they may not be there yet. And so then you're going to have this kind of tug of war. So you want to be able to get an understanding for that. And part of that may be teaching why a particular issue or something is meaningful to the students, but it also is rooted in how do I get them to believe that they can actually do something about what means something to them. You know, like, for example, they may feel like, hey, crime is going up and violence is going up, and that means something to me, but if I don't believe that I could do anything inside of school that would really impact that, then we have a disconnect. So what can we do to provide the hope and faith? Because if you don't have any hope and faith, then you really can't be a great educator. And then even for that student, you have to have some level of hope and faith before you even venture onto a project. So then from provoke is predict. What's the prediction that you're making? If we complete X, it's going to result in Y. Also, I know we are all music educators and professionals, but if you remember in your schooling, you heard something called the scientific method. And so the scientific method, honestly, this approach right here is really this project-based learning being infused with the scientific method. Scientific method, you make your hypothesis, we believe that this is going to happen, and then we begin, that's where we're making our prediction. What we shaped our hypothesis around is what was something that was meaningful to us. So that's where you're getting your provoke and then your predict. And then from there, step 3, you prepare. What do I need to be able to produce what it is that I said I'm going to do? Part of that preparation may be tapping into other community people. From our standpoint, part of that preparation may be tapping into the subject teacher who we are fusing music together with, and/or it may be us as the music educator being the resource where they may come to us to help them prepare for a project that they're going to implement. Then from preparation, we go to production. We produce. We're going to make what it is that we're going to create. Then from producing, we preview. When you have that great record, you testing it. So it's like a listening party. So before we go full-blown to the community, let's preview. So maybe before we do a presentation and an unveiling to the entire school community, we may ask a class to come visit our class so that not only can we get some internal feedback on what it is that we're creating, we can also develop the best way to present what it is that we're making. And so then after the preview, we go to present, and that's where you would invite the community in, you're presenting to a larger audience, you're getting that feedback, and then the last step is when you process. So that process would be the reflection on learning, the reflection on the full project process, what went well, what didn't go so well, what can be improved upon. And you may find yourself having a certain level of processing at each one of the stages, but the last one would be the reflection process on the entire one. Does this make sense? As I know it's new, but it's a flow. It makes sense. I could tell by your nonverbal. It's like, all right, you good. You can stay. You can come back tomorrow. All right. So what's going to happen is when you do the group work that will take place tomorrow, the way that you are going to present is you will get this in a link. You'll get this, and this will be, you'll be able to edit. So you'll be able to put the information for your 7 steps on this form like this. So it'll be something that you'll actually be able to take back to school with you. Here, let's just take some few moments actually before we take a stretch, because I see some heads nodding. Just share your thoughts. If you can access this, fine. If not, we can just go here and do it the old school way. But what are some of your thoughts around the framework that I just presented, project-based learning as a flow? Just what are some of your thoughts? If you can get on here and add it on here, that's great, because then you'll be able to refer back. But if you can't, I'll definitely generate a list and take a picture of this and make sure you get that as well, so we don't lose any of our brilliant genius. But we just presented a lot, and it was really the crux of the work that we're doing. So let's take some time to just process that, and let me hear your thoughts. Okay, so for those of you who are adding it up there, you can add it up there. For those of you who were unable to, if you just want to shout out some of your thoughts about this framework, about project-based learning, I can capture it up here. Even if your thoughts are questions, let's tackle that.
Well, I placed that is incremental, which means there's an order to the process.
Thank you.
If I can add to that,
Yes.
which is like lesson planning, because you start out with what you really want, get done, and then you go through the process of step 1, step 2, this is how you can do it, this is how you can play it, and you question this and you question that. Same process.
Yes, it's definitely a process. It's incremental, and it's something that the dots connect. It's not something where, okay, I taught you this on Monday, you can throw that away, and then you come in Tuesday. It's building upon things. Just like most things that we do in life, most things that we learn, the things that we tend to hold on to are those lessons that are applicable, that we actually get to utilize and do something with. And so when we're talking about in order to the process and it being incremental, then we can also have them see that the learning. Check. Okay, it's just fading on me. All right. So what's up here is calls for collaboration. The 7 P's of project-based learning appears to be similar to an instructional plan. Incremental, which gives order to the entire process. Student learning goals and evaluation techniques. Links learning to real life. Empowers students to feel able to make real changes in their world. That is the gold star. That really is what it is that we are trying to do. Yes, student-centered. Because understand, especially in this day and age and the way technology is moving, as educators today, we are really trying to prepare a generation of children to live in a world where a lot of those norms and practices may not even exist yet in the way that they're being presented. And that is something, if you think of the dispensation of time, it's very unique. I was born in 1968. When I went to school, wow, thanks a lot. I don't know if that was a good thing or, man, we could talk about that later. But I'm just saying that, so when I went to school, most of the professions that they were saying, hey, you can go to school to become a doctor or become a lawyer, they all existed. Most of the things the reasons why our parents were telling us to go to school, it was to take advantage of things that already exist. Saying is that what was just recreational, now you can actually go to a university and get a degree in gaming. That now what was once just a recreation is a profession. That you have some people, there is a a musical artist named T-Pain. And he says he makes more money gaming than he ever did singing and from music. That he literally gets, so he will, so because now people will get online and pay to watch other people play their video games. It's called Twitch. Yes. So I'm just giving you the understanding that when we are educating our young people today, we are doing them a disservice if we think we are only preparing them for what exists today. Yes.
Yes, as you were talking and I was saying the 7 P's, I remember my son when he was studying and he said, Mommy, why am I learning this content? When they want to know them, I go on YouTube or someplace and learn them. So I asked him, so what do you think school's about? He said, prepare me for the future, like Jeff Bezos. I was like, what does that mean? So he was saying, Jeff Bezos and those that make money, that didn't even went to school, they predict the future. And they create a product for the future. But we're at school teaching them the past. And he couldn't understand, if I want to learn this concept, the time I want to learn this concept, I can go any place on the internet and learn this concept. He wants to learn about working together and how do these billionaires predict the future to get a product that we will want, that we don't even know we want yet.
Yeah.
So it was quite interesting that these 7 P's come out, because when I saw it, it reminded me of him.
And so then what happens is, to that point, I would say just as music as a subject matter is something that should be cross-curricular, entrepreneurial thought should be a part of every subject, because that's the key, that I'm going to create something that you will depend on before you even think that it exists. Because there was a time, yes, I will get up and I will go to the bookstore, and it used to be a thing. Like, yo, I met this nice girl, we'll have our first date, we're going to go to the bookstore. Now, do they even exist? There was a time that new music only came out, at least in the States, it came out on Tuesdays. That Tuesdays you had to go to the record store. You had to wait and get the music. Now everything is at the touch of a button. That if we wanted to make a song right now by 3 o'clock, we could have it, hit send, and then everybody shares it with their friends, and we could try to go viral overnight. And so what's happening is, so now young people are like, okay, I want to figure that out. And so then when they say they want to figure that out, and then you as a parent, you're still operating off of how you were educated. And so then when it passes your ability to think, then a lot of times for us as adults, just do what I tell you to do and go get your learning. Right now. What, you being disrespectful? It's like, so then what happens is they will equate questioning with being disrespectful. Then you get children who are compliant as opposed to being critical thinkers. And then when they come to music, they struggle because you want them to be creative. And their thing is, the way that I've been instructed, if you give me what to play, I will play it, give me my grade, and then I continue going on. But if you say, hey, I'm going to give you this blank sheet of sheet music, and by the end of the term, you are going to write your own score, play your own symphony, it's like, what? Switch. Yes. So those are the things that we're dealing with. Is like, how do we teach beyond? Because honestly, this is some of the things that my wife and I, and both of us have college degrees. It's like, okay, how do we support our young adult children who are having dreams that go past where we're able to show them? So then it becomes, I have to prepare you with those skills that will make you show up in every space and then be confident. And then the truth is, and I know, Mom, it is a difficult lesson because now I got to tell you the things that were around Jeff Bezos that ain't around you, that white people are taught with a freedom of failure that gets equated as learning, whereas for black folk, we are taught that you better make sure that you know that you know that you know that you know before you take that first step, because we think failure has generational implications, and historically because it has. So therefore, we are trying to tell our children, you can be all you can be, but I've never taught you how to dream. Something that has developed into a major avenue, because we are all music educators and musicians. When we were talking about the early advent of gaming, we were not making a connection between the gaming industry and the music industry. Fast forward to 2024, you have musical artists and you have producers who strictly will produce for games. So that becomes their world tour, that if I get a song that is part of the 2K25 download basketball game, my song is now going worldwide, and I have not left my house or my studio where I made it. Whereas for me, the sounds we were used to in the beginning were the actual sounds that the game actually made. And so that's just to show just growth of areas where things can go. I was being asked to share a rhyme. I don't know who told y'all that I do that. Randy, you out there talking, bro? Something slight. So let's just do this. Give me some words. Give me some words. Huh? What? Pineapple. See? Listen, remember this with your students. All right? Didn't we say this morning, want you to be like your students. So we saying pineapple. You said, someone said orange, party. Hotel. All right. Excuse me? Yeah, take some more words. Sausage. Salary. Huh? Lobby? Lobby? Okay. All right, so this says pineapple, orange, party, sophisticated, hotel, sausage, salary, and lobby. All right. But as I said, remember when you get in front of your students, all right? Because payback, y'all can fill in that blank of what that is. So, I can sit down and look at these words and dig inside the file of my head and come off the top because I rep hip-hop ed. People want to say that this style is quite ample. I'm about to break these words down and give you an example. I travel international so I could get that salary. Some call them stacks, and people just want to follow me. I went to a hotel and I was trapped in the lobby, but I freestyle off the top because rhyme style is a hobby. then we just going to connect, and people want to give orange and say it's a color, but then I can slap rhyme, a slant rhyme, and go that orange to my storage, and then people want to say, are you going to eat some of that porridge, and then put a little sausage, then I get a massage when I rest, and then I wake up, and then I get that pineapple inside that pina colada to hit y'all with a flow. At the end, there won't be nada words left that I did not touch. I can go back to show you there's a game called Double Dutch while we jump at the party, and the music makes you move your body, and then you can connect with somebody, and then we can just have a sophisticated lady who really ain't crazy. She's the mother of my baby, and then we just became a married couple. For an example, 26 years. I've been ripping rhyme for a whole career. You could throw out some words as I just continue to flow, just to show you this is off the top, because I always know. So tomorrow in the morning, what? Okay, so I see a little effects and give me a little EQ. I can stare at the camera as your boy's coming through. This free is off the top, 1080 HD. My mother named me middle name David, but my first name is Timothy. So you can hear this verse that's coming live from me. I told y'all once that I'm a minister of the gospel. The way I freestyle, they might say I'm an apostle, but I'm really just a disciple whose words are very vital. You can rewind on this cassette and you can listen to this recital, because the thoughts is resurrected, and it wasn't in 3 days. I could pause for a moment and you could give God praise, but this is how I do it, because I'm running life's race, and because I was a wretch undone, I thank him for his amazing grace. But we could just go back to just make this clear. As you beating on the table, you're setting this atmosphere. And so we're going to go to the meaning of the science genius. When you take nouns and verbs and connect them like Lego blocks, and then I went inside of biology and I gave a lecture, but it was in hip hop. And then people wondered, how could you really do your thing? Because now they say I'm a genius, like I'm a member of Wu-Tang. There's a program that Chris Emden and the Jizza from Wu-Tang created called Science Genius. And Chris is a science teacher by profession, but a hip-hop head by passion. And his thing was, if we can use hip-hop to teach science, then the other subjects will kind of fall into place, because he felt that, one, that was the subject that a lot of people that looked like him was just discounting themselves from. Like, oh, I'm not good in science, and so I don't even pay attention to it. And so when he engaged with the RZA, as you see what it says up here, he's someone that if you're listening to his rhymes, you're hearing physics, you're hearing astronomy, but he didn't learn this in his science class. So it was just him following an interest that was fueled by his passion, but the people in the classroom wasn't recognizing what he was doing. So think about it, if the teacher is telling him, stop writing them rhymes in that book, you're never gonna be anything. But the teacher never took the time to read what was being written in the books. And so then if the teacher would have took the time to read, he would have been able to see, like, okay, how do you know that the distance from the earth to the sun is the 93 million, this, that, and the other, and then you're connecting galaxies and this, that, and the other. How are you bringing things that wasn't even part of the curriculum? The problem is that too often we will just teach to the standards, which is actually teaching down to our children. Our children's brilliance is so far greater than the standards, because your brilliance as educators cannot be confined or defined by the standards. So why is it that we use that as the sole litmus test? I understand that, real talk, because of salary, we got to hit those marks. But that shouldn't be the only mark. And the truth of the matter is, I was having a really great conversation with my brother here, is that we have to work to teach our young people to use what they are learning and not just remember what they're learning. Because if I'm only remembering what you are teaching me to the test. And soon as I remember long enough to put down the answer, it's gone. By the time I get home, if you ask me question 2, I don't remember. Did I get it right or did I get it wrong? But if you're teaching me to be able to learn and use what I'm learning, now you're getting into the higher order thinking. Now I'm able to hold on to it, and now I'm able to use it and connect it to something else. And so, yes, the memorization, that's the fundamental. That's easy. And I think we have to speak to our young people to get them to see that what is being presented to you all as mastery is really elementary. It's really easy. Being able to do something that doesn't exist, that's mastery. It would have been an elementary exercise if I took these words, went home to my hotel, you gave me a beat, and I told my wife, hey, honey, I can't go to dinner because I have to write 8 lines that go with these 8 words, and then I got to memorize it, and then I got to come back, and I make sure I wear the same clothes because it got to connect to my mind because I got to recreate it, otherwise I won't remember it. You may get a little bit of applause. But now if I was able to take this and then tap into things that I had learned before, practices that I had been perfecting before, being able to tap into the energy of the room, being able to go from here, because I could have stopped right here and I would have met the standard. But I was like, nah, then my brother in the back started giving me sound effects. Oh, we gonna flex. Notice effects, flex. Haha, keep it going. Yes, yeah. So, but so that's the space. But also what happens, there's a level of excitement when the space is created where it's like, Tim, I want to get to know you, not just the one who prepared the slides or who even prepared the presentation. That's cool. I want to know you. Give me something that is uniquely you, that if somebody else was to come and do these slides, they can't be you. So we have to create the space for our students, like give me something that is uniquely you, that nobody else, somebody may be able to do it different and even better, but nobody can do you like you. There's only one of you. You're one of one. They broke the mold. In the history of the world, there is only one. That should make you feel special. So this is what Jizza was saying, and so they came together and they created what is Science Genius. I want to show this video. This follows a group of students. I can tell you this young lady who is in the light lime green shirt, she is now a teacher. So her participation in Science Genius as a 9th grader back in school year 2013 propelled her to go to college to become a teacher. So her thing is she wanted to be the teacher that she never had. And that came from this experience. So I just want us to play this, and we're going to flow on from there.
Oh, and then my thoughts flow on a blank piece of paper. I'ma hold it down, I'm the man, no anchor.
Essential components of a cell. This crew is gonna win.
Can't you tell?
Now, hey, say whoa.
And when the sperm finally reaches the ova and the journey's over, it becomes a zygote and waits till it's 9 months older.
The first time I went into the class at Park East, Ryan was such a shrinking violet. You saw him like slide down into his seat. He didn't want to be recognized. He didn't want to be identified. He didn't want to bring any attention to himself.
There are some parts where I have to, show my energy and jump a little bit and then make the crowd go nuts. To do this sort of thing, really surprises the other people that I know.
Oh, okay, wait. So you have that one rap or you got two? I got that one rap, but it's a mixture.
He's like, so, Emden, what rap do you want for the performance? I have one about, about reproduction. I have one about DNA. Pick one, and then I'll figure out which one I want to perform.
He's always lacked a little confidence. He doesn't believe in himself as much. He didn't really participate in a lot of things within the school. He was very shy.
Yeah, am kind of nervous, but I am confident about, trying to win this thing and trying to, surprise everybody with my stage performance. Now let's get the show moving.
I'm really anxious. I woke up this morning early and I could not go back to sleep because I was so anxious. I just want to do it. I could not stop singing and saying my lines in the shower and while getting dressed. I just couldn't. Thank you.
I would have never thought Victoria was gonna rap. And she's just like so into the project.
That changing, rearranging, how does it start?
Science was something that I always failed, which prevented me from getting into the specialized high school that I wanted to go to.
Changing, rearranging, cell mutation, they also unwind to instruct the making of concentric components of a cell. The school's gonna win. Can't you tell? Now, let's find a cab. Guys, my old school is right, that's my old school right there. Fannie Lou, I hated that school. That's Fannie Lou.
When I learned about the program on that snowy winter day, my father had just finished getting his car out of the snow. So I told him about the program, and he told me that the program wasn't gonna work. He said I wasn't gonna learn anything and it's gonna fail like every other program.
Yes, we almost there. Go, Chris.
Yo, we're here.
I'm not nervous. I'm excited. I'm excited for them to hit the stage, and I'm excited for people to see them. Even if they go up there and they're nervous, the brilliance will shine through. I just know it.
Hey, listen, it's like this. We here in Columbia University. Damn, you get the worst of me, regardless what they saying. Ain't nobody here be cursing me. Everybody know we do it all for the high school staple.
The whole audience couldn't be silenced when they hear y'all dropping all that knowledge and spitting all of that science.
That's right.
And so now, I'm more excited than anybody else is out there. Let's get this thing started. First group, they're from Bronx Compass. Ladies, up to the stage, please.
You can't hate with the new Wu-Tang. Check out our lyrical slang as we begin. Trying to reach our goals, so we keep on striving. Adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine, base pair, date pair, like we are rhyming.
Natural selection, survival of the fittest. Just remember Mother Nature screaming, anybody can get it. We not done.
Not every student who's a part of Science Genius is going to be a straight A student and go on to college and declare a science major and be the next Einstein.
Planets spinning all around me, galaxies surround me. It's astronomy, yo. Right like the phoenix, the temperature so hot. I'm wilding out a lot. Volcanoes is all I've got.
But you know what? We definitely are going to have more scientifically literate young people.
These resistance/demons were kinda holding me back, and I let them, but the simple way to get me on track was force times this place is work, no debate. I'll take that concept, apply it to my mistakes, and now I'm progressing, a natural rap genius. I'ma get an A if I see this on the regen.
I can tell you something about an Afronaut. It's very rare, plus I heard it's so volcanic. To tell the truth, I never been a rock fanatic.
That kid may not be a PhD, neuroscientist.
Gravity. Why you wanna be mad at me like 9.803 pushing down at me? Meters per second squared. Acceleration. I'm pushing back up. You know that's called determination.
But that kid will always remember the time that they wrote that rap about science and all the kids in their class said, you know what, you're smart.
All right. Our final performer for the evening, my man Ryan.
Say ho! Say ho! Ho! Now somebody scream! Let's go! When a man and a woman make love in a better a sofa. Then the sperm have a journey just to try to reach the over. Positive energy activates constant elevation. Let me hear y'all, let me hear y'all. Positive energy activates constant elevation.
Wow. I mean, everybody was absolutely brilliant. And they were like, Chris, do you want to judge? And I was like, nope.
Okay, so who's the first artist?
Bronx Compton.
17.5, 17.5, 18, 19.
Of the New York City Science Genius Battle is Jalib from Urban Assembly.
There were people that were better, and I think it was a learning experience because now we know next time we can do this to make our performance better.
Yeah, I think we still killed it.
I did feel kind of nervous, but I just wrung all my energy out. I was excited, and at the end, when I was done, I was really proud of myself.
When Ryan performs his rap, and you saw him a couple months ago, and you see him today, how could you not? How could you not be proud? How could you not be excited? How could you not be like just anticipating what's coming next?
What'd you see? Good.
Kids stepping out of their comfort zone, trying something new.
Yes. Stepping out their comfort zone, trying something new. When they did that, you saw the community get involved. You saw Ryan on the basketball court talking to one of the homies who's asking them, like, that was some A Killer and the Bee moment. Like, yo, what rhyme you gonna kick while you sitting out there? And then you saw, imagine doing a class project where he had to make sure his sneakers was clean. He was cleaning his sneakers, had to make sure he had the right hat on, and also to give further context, those students came from different parts of New York City, but for most of them, that was the first time they were ever at an Ivy League school. So this is taking place at Teachers College, Columbia University. So environment matters. So for them, it's like, yo, I get a chance to perform this science rap in front of my family at this prestigious college that without this opportunity, it would just be a stop on the train station. I would never feel comfortable into this space because they was never inviting to me, and I never saw myself as being smart enough to one day be there. But now that I'm there doing this, it's like, okay, maybe I can go to a Columbia or go to a Harvard or do whatever it is that I want to do because I stepped out my comfort zone and then felt comfortable in a different zone. Yes.
I had one thought, but then they changed it somewhat. But I will still go back to the first one. I saw most of these children, I heard most of these children tell their stories too, their backgrounds. And one of the guys, while he was rapping, said he never even gave rap much of a thought before. And it was interesting to hear him say that while he was rapping. And it gave me, the overall thing, this was my second thought, the overall exercise or activity in Science Genius, it gave me an idea to try something like that at my school. But let me go another way. I have a summer camp, and it's called Arts Academic Camp, where it mix arts and academic subjects. And this year, for the first time, I did something called stand-up comedy. So I found that to be a very interesting component that I added on this year for the first time. And the children took to it, like especially the 10+ age group. So I find that they were in front of their parents and their colleagues, their peers, trying to deliver what we call corny jokes. And everybody didn't come off, excellently, but for first time effort and seeing children do those kind of things out of their comfort zone, as you said, is very interesting. So give them a chance. It's true.
Yep. I see, brother, you had your hand up.
As I watched it, it made me think of a number of things, but I'll say this. I saw young children having the opportunity, being given the opportunity to express themselves and be themselves. And I wondered and I asked myself, are we providing a system and an environment that really allows my child to walk but with his shirt tail and grab a little crutch and then keep noise and put his hand up in the ear and scream and keep noise, and then we go, oh, this is so good, the young people are getting together, and that look cute on the screen, to be honest, it look really good, but are we providing that environment here? And the next question is, if I ever get asked, I can just wait and see how it goes.
No, go.
No, it's cool. I can just wait on the feedback because it may come out in itself. But the real question is, that's creativity, right? We're discussing creativity. And as simple as, yeah, you might got a student and we're working on an SBA. And everybody looking at this time, we say, this child can't do the work at all. And guess what? That young man can communicate verbally to me everything that's going on in the music. So I tell you, look, Teba, get a tape recorder. You got a phone? Record yourself explaining to me what you think the drummer doing, what you think the bass man doing, and then get your mother to write that down. So, Bernard in here, same thing with Bernard class. I got a little young man that going to the same school, and I say, hey, Bernard, this little man, he got a lot of noise in his head, yeah? But he never had the opportunity to express himself that way at home, right? Like so sit down properly, hold it up, because he's got a little slouch, right? And I said, nah, tell me what, with this SBA, don't feel pressured. Just start the way you start with your little bit in there, and just start the way you start, and mommy can write down what you say. So the question is, are we really providing an opportunity for our students to express themselves creatively?
What is interesting, the question, well, there are two things. Coming out of the video, you had this little girl, the one that you highlighted, who said that her father dismissed the whole thing and said that the program is going to fail, it's just another fad, and so on. That is what we go through in mass from teachers, administration, and principal. The only time that definitely, thank you for that, the parents as well. So the only time that these things are seen as something that is important is when you have a concert, graduation, NCF, what's it called again? NIFCA, school concerts. And that is the real challenge. The information is great. And usually in these situations, I can't speak for everybody, but I will take the information and go in classroom and I can do this. Yeah. And then sit down. And so I'm gonna run with it. I like it. I really like what I'm hearing.
So let me give a little more context to how this program was implemented, and maybe that may help with identifying some of those obstacles. So initially, you're meeting with the schools, and we want to partner with the science classes. And more times than not, the schools that we were targeting were schools that really were failing, being as honest as we could be. So it became, let us come in once, twice, and present this to the students. What we need for you to do is to provide the content and be willing to give them credit for the work that they're going to do, knowing that the majority of the work that they're going to do will take place outside of your classroom. So we're not trying to infringe upon your instruction time. And you can even help identify those students who you already deem the hardest to reach anyway. So we're not coming to try to come off the top and take your A students who are already doing it. We trying to engage some of the students whose attendance is up and down. They really wasn't engaged anyway. Because our hypothesis was, if we can get them in to thinking that they can write and perform a rap that teaches back a science concept, they will work harder and longer on writing and perfecting the rap than they would on you giving them a worksheet to study to pass a test. And so then it really became worst case scenario, if this bombs, what do you have to lose? And honestly, it was having conversations just like that. And so in that initial year, we had volunteers who served as the hip hop ambassador. And I was one of them. And I actually would drive from Maryland to New York and actually was the Science Genius ambassador at the high school that I attended. And it was, yes, 4 hours. And so understand, I would drive 4 hours to teach a class for 50 minutes and then drive back. There was not, back and forth. And I would do that twice a month. Those students, once they really was like, hold up, cuz you live in Maryland now and you're driving 4 hours and you're just asking me to show up to class? Oh, that's the least I can do. And so the teacher was like, oh, Mr. Tim, the days that you're coming, I get to teach students who otherwise aren't coming. And then they're working after school. So it became this triangular partnership. So then it's like, okay, who is the cool teacher? Who's doing something after school? Because after school is where they started to do the pre-production and the recording, because they had to have time to practice before they made it to the stage. And so then it almost became like being a student athlete. That, okay, if you love to play this sport, you got to go to your other classes in order to play this sport. Okay, you want to do this rhyme, you want to represent the school in a battle, then I need you to start showing up to some of your other classes. But then they started doing it based on the relationship of the people from the community coming and getting invested into them. And then for the parents who started to come up to the school, their thing, they were telling us, oh, this is the first time I ever came up to school, and it was for a good reason. Because normally when the school is calling, I'm picking up the phone. What did he do now? What? He's performing at an assembly in the auditorium to win a chance to go perform in Harlem? What? Wait a second. Did you call the right number? Are you talking about my child? And so that was the way we worked through. But honestly, there were some schools that was like, hey, not interested. And we was like, fine, we're going to continue to move forward. And then those schools where the school said no, they had friends who were at schools who said yes. And so then they're letting their friends know. And then the students began to advocate, we want to have this program at our school. And then even though for Victoria's father, he said what he said, but he dug his car out and he took her. So, you know, because he was holding on, he was like, this is not going to work, but clearly this is something that you want to do on a Saturday. So in his mind, it was like, I'm going to take you, and then when it doesn't work, I'm going to be the one to say, I told you so. But he was totally wrong. But to his credit, he put his feelings to the side, dug out the snow, and this is New York. It was a pretty severe snow he had to dig out and take her there. So that was just some of the back ways that we started to work this program. So it really was a lot of partnering and things outside of school and outside the classroom, but it started in the classroom because the source for their rhymes had to be part of their curriculum. And the teacher had to be willing to check their rhymes. So we didn't even ask the teacher to write rhymes and become an MC, but the teacher had to check their rhymes, and the student had to be able to teach a lesson, teaching back from the rhyme that they wrote, so that it wasn't just about their artistic ability. They had to become kind of masters of the content that they were writing about. And so all of that was behind there. You want to say something? And so here, what you see is Science Genius written out in the project framework. And so the provoke, What was the thing that got us motivated and moving, that led us basically to call to action? We felt black and brown students being detached from science in school. And so then what was our prediction? We predicted that hip hop could be used to make connections that would deepen science engagement. Just like in the video from PBL Works, where they show like the financial analysts inside the school. Can you imagine in New York City, you have Dr. Christopher Emden, who looks like them, but he's a PhD, but he's walking inside the classroom with Jizza from Wu-Tang? Like, can you imagine when the students went home and was telling their friends, like, yo, Jizza came to my physics class today? What? So that was part of the prediction, the preparation. The teachers and students work with hip-hop ambassadors, as I said, learning how to write these rhymes, learning how to battle, because they were used to battling to just tear people down. So we had to teach them how in early hip-hop, the battle was more about your artistic skill and you building yourself up. So it's one thing for me to battle you and all I'm doing is trying to say all the negative things I can say about you versus I'm battling you using hyperbole to big myself up. So we had to teach them how to battle in a way that you wouldn't want to fight the person at the end of the battle, because that was a real thing. And then that was a preparation, and then also diving into the science topics. We had to make the science topics mean something to them. So for a lot of them, they were in 9th grade. They were taking biology. A lot of them, we started studying ecosystems. Okay, what does ecosystems mean? Tell me about your neighborhood as an ecosystem. Tell me about how living and non-living things within your community interact. That is the ecosystem. Let's rewrite the periodic table where these elements are different aspects of your neighborhood. And so we had to give them a context that was relevant to them for them to have the aha moment and then apply the concept. And all of this is happening with music as the backdrop. So then they're producing, they're writing their rhymes, finding the right instrumentals, doing the drafts. Is there enough science in this rhyme? Is it too much? Am I using too much slang in my rhyme to the point where the judges and the adults won't understand? Because in the battle, you saw they were sitting at the table. We always had judges. We always had a judge who was an academic. We also had a judge who was a scientist. And then we also had a judge who was part of the entertainment industry, so that they were being evaluated not only on the academic content, but also the style and the rhythm of the artistic expression. So all of that went into producing. The preview were battles that were taking place at the schools, because the schools had a battle and then whoever won that battle represented the school. And then also the preview was practicing for a week at Teachers College to just get to know one another, get comfortable with the stage. For a lot of them, that was the first time they had ever performed a rap in a setting like that. And so then the final battle that was on the video, that was where Step 6 came into play. That was the presentation. That's when the families were there and everybody else. And then the process after the results. And so some of that was anecdotal, but also it was sitting down and interviewing teachers. So if I'm Tim and I'm a student inside of your class and I participated, we did a pre-interview with you and then we did a post-interview. How did Tim's attitude change? What were some of the things you saw that was different? In some instances, the grade moved up. In other instances, it didn't. But it might be, hey, Tim's attendance went up. He showed up more. He wrote more than he ever did because people were starting at different starting points. And so that was the whole thing of the process. Does that make sense? So it's what started in New York, what started heavily hip-hop, began to grow. It went not only from different places within the United States, it went to Canada, but then Chris and Renee got together, and Renee was like, you got to take it home. And so I wanted to show you Science Genius in Jamaica. And so here, as you see, is science meets dance hall. So just like how we were talking earlier this morning, and we talked about hip hop pedagogy, and then you can take hip hop out, and then we was putting in soca and African tradition and other things like that.
So there is a notion that dancehall music can have a negative impact on young people. We're here today to dispel the myth, because it's the same thing they told Professor Embin about hip hop. That if we are even skeptical coming in this morning, but open our minds and see how it is that we can see how this thing can actually work.
And on behalf of the entire JN Foundation team, I want to thank you all for coming this morning. Science education in high schools is disrupted by Science Genius. And it's going to make learning different, and it's going to make learning fun.
Science Genius Jamaica will inspire the confidence of our students using music and culture to get them more enthused and learning science and pursuing other academic goals. In other words, we're going to turn it up. Students and teachers will be invited to submit videos to our JN Foundation team. 20 of the best ones will be selected. You're going to have to tell us why it is you think science is fun, why your school should be a part of it, why this class will knock it out of the park.
All of us recognize that we need to revolutionize education, but the only way we're going to do it is through partnership. And I really want to congratulate and commend the JN Foundation. I think you should give them a round of applause.
You see political parties use that to communicate. You see businesses, private sector business use the dancehall music in their ads to get across their message that their product or their service is the right one. And it is opportune that we are now using it to educate or to transmit information of an educational nature to the young minds out there. The work that's been done in New York so far has shattered the consciousness of a number of people. Because I chose on purpose places where they said those kids can't do it because there's high incarceration rates, low graduation rates, no ability. I had colleagues at Columbia and Harvard tell me that I was wasting my time. Only for a news station to say, well, let's just use some version of this project and see if it works for us. So I had these kids that they dismissed working on these science raps. And they had PhD level scientists with more degrees than I have. But you know what happens at the end? PhD level scientists constructing science raps that's eloquent and detailed and talks about their research in a crazy way. And then these high schoolers that they said are worth nothing doing the exact same thing. And then we compare the science content of the 9th graders in the lowest schools possible with the science content of the PhD level scientists, and it is comparable in every single way. So what we're doing now is we're showing people that the intellectual ability exists in low places as well as high places. Right? The passion for the work exists in both of those spaces as well. All we had to do was allow the young folks to be able to do it on their own terms and their own culture. Newton's laws of motion is the topic of the course, and things in motion stay in motion unless they hit in a balanced force. Of course. Next up, the second law of situation and summation. Force equals mass times acceleration. Set. That's the second law, Newton foresaw. If you want more, then the third law is in store. See, every force has an opposite force, and every action has an equal plus opposite reaction. The sum of all objects at rest is zero unless that object is no longer relaxing. I mean, in motion, that's changing location. Till it hits traction, a coefficient of friction. Then it all comes to a full stop. And there was Newton laws over hip-hop. But hold up. I'm off Newton. I'm on to Einstein. I like Einstein because Einstein's mind is like mine. His formula was E equals MC squared, which is weird because E, me, is your favorite MC squared. See? E's energy, M's mass, C's the speed of light, which is the constant.
As a little youth, science was intimidating. As I grew older, I started relating to some deep concepts of the world. Gravity and forces that make the earth turn. Eventually, I start to understand the difference between protons and neurons. Start read up more about Einstein. My brain start evolve and get more inclined. So much was there to research. My mind expand like the universe. Observe nature, there's so much knowledge. The natural world is like an actual college. Information don't got no limit. Little bio, little chem, little maths, little physics. All of these are important to us. That's why I am a part of Science Genius.
So, as you can see, it was like, let's try it in a different setting, but yet a similar one. And what then made it even more challenging was as we were implementing Science Genius Jamaica, the pandemic hit. So then it became, how do we do this virtually? And so then it was creating videos and then letting people know that there's software platforms out there like BandLab and Soundtrap. And so then it was us getting people to donate instrumentals, and then the mentors started having online sessions. And so the young people continued to work. And so then the judging went really wide, because then it's like, okay, we're going to use our social media account and use Hip Hop Ed, and we're going to put the top 3 or 4 up and let people vote. So now they're performing at home, but they're reaching strangers all over. And so now, because you're operating in a virtual space, you were able to get educators who then, oh, let me use this performance to teach that same science concept in my classroom. So I'm going to meet the standard, but what I'm using now is something that didn't come in the curriculum box of how to teach to that standard. And so that was what we were doing there. And of course, we would love to see what would Science Genius Barbados look like. What would a Science Genius Soca look like? And it's not, and we wanted to do science because we felt like if you could tackle science, then math would be easy, English is easy, history is easy, easier. I ain't saying easy as it all, but it's just because science was something that, as we said, a lot of black and brown students just didn't see themselves as scientists. And once they saw themselves as scientists and then saw that what they do outside of school can be presented as through a scientific lens. So that person who's that heavy gamer, you're a scientist. You're always evaluating, you're experimenting, you're trying different things, you're talking to other people, you're doing all of the collaborative efforts that scientists do, but it just wasn't called that. If you're producing beats and then you're figuring, I'm going to make the music and then I'm doing my own graphics, I'm creating my own merch, I'm going to the different spots, I'm doing all of these different things that there was a time that you had record companies and all of those were separate jobs, but now these young people are doing it amongst their friends. That's science. That's collaboration. That's creativity. And so that's what we are doing. But as we begin to wrap up, any thoughts about this? Wonderings? Something like this could be done here. Any other planning around how we're going to covert and get around administration and people that want to tell us no and other stuff like that? You know, all of that. Yes. And then I'm going to come to you.
So Marlon there? So Marlon mentioned what we call the image of grabbing the crutch and I noticed on the video the boy went behind the door, grabbed his hat. He said, "No, I'm ready," basically, right? Which is an image thing for hip hop. That flat, flat back hat, snap back.
That fresh blue Yankee on.
Right.
Yes.
So, bringing it here, we'd have noticed that they had 4 or 5 tables that mentioned Bashment Soca. when Bashment Soca first came out, I was totally against it. Not because of the rhythmic elements of it. It's because the language was everything negative, right? I've seen now where one of the main artists has now changed his image, and open to realize over the season, changed his image to not be so, was it Vug, whatever the case, right? And I have here on my notepad the societal view on us using this genre in schools, whereas the kids go with what society is doing. And we just sometimes think, oh, it's them, but they follow a lot of what the adults are doing. So a lot of the adults who were jumping on the Bashment Soca because it was sexualizing women and skin out here and this thing and that thing, the kids saying, well, if my mothers do that, well, I could do it too. And then bringing it into the schools. And now we got this whole crazy outlook on this not new genre. I would say recreated because Lil Rick is doing this here eons ago. The car artists doing this ever since, right? So my question is, I had can the view change? And then I changed it to how, which means we as the tutors have to find a way to help the kids to see that it is their image that they're putting into the music, right? And into the genre, which then dictates how other people see it. And as we've seen over the last few years, and I can use Steel Pan as an example, the NCF putting the program into the schools, and I often realize, but no, it's probably the biggest thing in Barbados now. Steel Pan needs to be everywhere. And it's being student-led. I don't know if y'all realize they got more student Steel Pan groups now in Barbados than they have adult groups, which it used to be the other way around, right? So it means that if we can get the kids to be the forerunners, it will take off in the rest of the country and by extension the region and the world.
So before you say to quickly answer, one of the things that we had to do, because it wasn't so challenging to get the administration to be like, okay, you can come in and present it. Where it became challenging, honestly, was getting the students to believe that you could make hip hop that they would consider real that didn't have profanity in it, because it was driven by the language and over-sexualization, as you just were speaking to. So myself and Chris, as educator MCs, we would go in classrooms and show and prove, because it's like, okay, let's get up right now. Let's go. Who's the best MC in the class? And I'm going to take you on, and I'm not cursing. And then their eyes were open to the possibilities. And then it was also giving them that lesson, taking it back to the root, because once again, they are consuming a processed version that they are internalizing as true and authentic. So then to them, it's unless it says this, it's not real, which couldn't be further from the truth. But a lot of it took to, let me show you another way. And then now, because you were mimicking them anyway.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to give you a different example to follow, and I'm going to do it with you. So I know we have creators in this room. I know you know other people. So it's really broadening what they're consuming to let them know.
And to add to something you said earlier, that you didn't go after the A students, right? I remember a young lady at school I was teaching at. Some of the kids sent out images of themselves doing things to boyfriends or whatever. The relationship went bad, and the fellas sent it all around the country. And I remember every day I would see that young lady walking into school like this, and nobody want to talk to her or whatever. And then when I asked her there, you want to learn to play this instrument? I ain't gonna say the instrument because it'd be a little obvious who the person is, right? And from that, a whole band became a thing, because this one student who couldn't get past this part of her life had no outlet. And I say that to say this. I thought that some other schools that were seemed to be the worst or called the worst. And I find those students, when they want get into doing something, they have a bigger impact on the others than the A students.
Exactly. Sis.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Just wanted to share this with you. The project-based learning can work here because I was doing it for a while at a particular primary school where the project was a Calypso project. And the object was that you had to write a Calypso, or as I told them at first, write a poem, and then we would turn it into a Calypso. And the topics had to be things that you are either doing in class, you're doing at school, or it might be something like one of the songs we did was singing about hurricanes. So all the information that you needed to know about hurricanes was in that song. All the information that you need to know about, say, mosquitoes and dengue and all of that was in the song. So the project, the children had to learn to write. Included in that, it will also go into English language with the rhyming and the different, the things that we do in English to help them bring out structures. Yeah, thank you. Right, in English to bring out things. So I was doing it for a while, quite a while. So, but you have to get the admin on board, of course. Right? And when they see results, you will have no problems. I had no problems whatsoever because the culminating activity for that project was a Calypso competition at the school. And it happened over quite a few years.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Yes.
Okay, quickly. I applaud primary school teachers for this reason. I live next door to a primary school, and every morning there's this sing-song concert when they're teaching Spanish, math, and things, etc. If we can do this, I think I gotta start primarily at the bottom first. Y'all are actually very good at doing this. Like, my thing to every colleague here, are y'all going to be willing to get up in front of your class and be vulnerable and demonstrate this activity? Okay, no, but you see, that's what I just said. Primary school, you all do this every day, and I say that it's like the most amazing thing. I tell you when we get scoop in the morning, it's be like, yeah, but you see, you all know it got to start here, I bottom. Like anything cultural in Barbados, if it don't start at the bottom, we can't change the generation idea of it. So my question is, if you're willing to take up that challenge to push that forward.
That is a great way of thinking, but I will also say, in this instance, we intentionally started with high school because there is a power of influence that teenagers have to their younger siblings where they can make something cool in a way that adults cannot. And the choice is whether or not they're making something cool that is going to be for the benefit or to the detriment. So trust me, the younger siblings of those students, all of a sudden they're seeing their older brother and sister in the bedroom, and now they can keep the door open because the music that's being played is what they're writing, and they ain't cussing and shooting everybody every third line. So then it became like, oh, can I start coming to your after school program? Can I come to Teachers College? And then one day I want to go to that school where that program is going to be there. We got about a few more minutes and we're wrapping up, but go ahead.
To the statement that was made before, I think, but that's what you said earlier, right? In your presentation, you were saying, that we grew up with one type of learning in our youth, when we're young, and then when we get into our teens, you're literally tell you, okay, we don't learn this way anymore. You have to learn another way. So to his point, the primary school teachers have been doing it. It's the secondary school teachers now that need to. Right. Okay. So when you say you mean as second? Oh, it wasn't clear to me, man. Don't beat me. Right. It wasn't clear. Right.
Just blow the cartridge and stick it in. Yeah.
It-
So, really quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. In addition to that, I think I was actually having a conversation with with Ms. Bishop next to me. We also have to bear in mind that each of us are going to have to bring our own unique skill sets to things of that sort, because I can be real. You see that rapping thing that you just do when you just pick out them words around, I will be real with you. I don't have that ability right now. Not right now. Let me say right now. I don't know what can happen in the future, but the point is that's not my strength. So what you did is not necessarily my strength, but my strength may be playing a particular instrument, a particular other art form, and I believe there's something in here that each of us can do that the other cannot do. So I think we also have to bear in mind that our unique talents are important in these things as well. So we got to bear that in mind.
Exactly, and partnership and collaboration is the key, because I know what it is that I can do, but then I also know what I can't. So it's important to bring those people together. My brother right here, and then we're going up. We're going to go home.
No, just a comment with regard to what you were saying about you guys using the teenagers. You always find, like, within the family, that big brother and big sister tends to be the influencers. To use that YouTube term, big brother and big sister tend to be influencers. So I'm not surprised about the impact that the teenagers had.
Yes.
On the young ones. Yeah.
Yep.
But I tell the brother's point there about we the primary school teachers have a large part to play.
Yes. It's a both and. It's not. It's definitely not an either or. It is a both and.